The school warrant was
No,
must be $20.
At least.
So they can get the formalities done, so they can get benefits and housing and all that stuff figured out, and then.
I don't like any of these pictures.
Another letting in Mao.
check it out, that doesn't work.
We're probably not going.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one,
Don't wanna miss them.
You're not going to that
It's up.
We're on YouTube.
because I usually don't care.
one? So you already have a pen on there.
I'm gonna go get some.
I just said if we're gonna start, this might, got this one.
Oh, I do,
It
sir.
doesn't work.
No, sir, I thought I brought something different than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the only one I like.
Let me see. That was my favorite. That one. But someone said, where is it?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out.
That's the gift.
That's what I thought
And the
too.
church would be to the right.
It's the one that Virginia Sousa painted that's in the, office.
Oh,
She just kind of shrunk it down to the right size.
I think that was the only one that I liked.
It's the only one I like.
Yeah, but the other ones just didn't really need to do anything.
Yeah. I know that's right. That's a big decision.
Well, that one, was that the vote?
Huh?
Are we all voted on that?
No,
Or do we have to
that's
do a
coming up
public?
later though.
Okay.
We just had an illegal meeting regarding what, how about to put on the town report. Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting of the South Thompson Select Board of May 13th at 6 p.m. to order. And Jeff, would you lead us in the pledge? Yep. From all over the place, yeah. Either there or there. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to take, I'd like to skip the minutes for a moment and, skip public comment and go to adjustments. We have, Terry, the adjustments that I had that you talked about were Eva Burke would like to be, appointed to the resiliency committee. We have several donations to the library that we need to accept. We need to execute the election documents for RSU 13's budget. And we need to accept Phil's resignation, correct?
That's what I had, yes.
Anybody else have any adjustments?
No.
So I guess what I'd like to do is accept Phil's resignation and then consider our appointment for his replacement. So is there, we have a letter from Phil resigning. That's not it. I should say retiring after how many years here?
Oh, I don't know, what's that, 6, 7?
Yeah.
7? Yeah,
Yeah, long time
yep.
in that job. So is there a motion to accept his retirement letter, I guess I'd rather call it?
I make a motion that we reluctantly accept his retirement letter effective 30 June 2025.
I'll second that.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor? Now that we have a vacancy there, is there a motion to appoint Corey Benner as his replacement effective? We didn't have an effective. We were thinking June 2nd, but
Well, June 2nd.
that works? Okay,
So moved.
I'll second that.
okay, further discussion. Would you like to introduce yourself? This is the new Phil, we hope, for many years to come.
I am Corey Benner. I go by Corey. I live here in South Thomaston. I'm leaving a job of 20 years that I have done everything at. So I hope to bring, knowledge, experience here and be a familiar face, hopefully for years to come. That's what I'm going for.
Great.
We hope so too.
Yeah. So, further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor? Welcome.
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 That was rather unceremonial, but and there aren't many people from South Austin here tonight, so. Okay, why don't we skip around again and go to the new business B, RSU school budget presentation. And before I open it up to John, Superintendent McDonald, two things, Corey, you don't have to hang around all night, so if you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to. And I did get an email from Brad, our school board member, indicating that he would have liked to have been here, but he's in Brazil. That's why he's not here. So with that, I turn it over to you, John, I guess.
Yes, so Mr. Hoyt is actually doing a school visit at an international school in Brazil.
Okay.
And he had sent his regrets. So my name is John McDonald. I'm the superintendent of schools and I have been since 2014. So I've been here a few times. Thank you for having us here tonight. I want to introduce Patty Hunt. She's our business manager. And Allie Young is our HR director. And Kelly McCannell is our school board chair.
Okay, great.
So before we get into the budget talk a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about the schools, if I could. So I think Maine schools have sort of been in the news kind of a lot lately, and sometimes for not really great reasons. But I actually have some good news to share with you folks tonight, and that is this. You've heard kind of rhetoric about test scores, Maine's test scores, and they're not looking good, but our data doesn't really show that. We've done a 3-year look at our NWEA, Northwest Educational Associates testing, which is a nationally normed test. And we've looked K through 8, and since the COVID pandemic, which hit us pretty hard in that regard, right now, all those grade levels, K through 8, with one exception, which is grade 7, which I'll talk about in a minute, are either at or slightly above grade level in terms of their performance. Grade 7 were second graders during COVID, and they suffered the most learning loss of any grade. But we know this, and we've got supports in place for them. And though they're not really testing on grade level particularly, they're making great gains. So we're following them all the way up, giving them the supports that they need. Some of those grade levels are slated to make almost 150% of their growth goals this year. That's really good performance. So we have nothing to be apologizing for in terms of test scores. Our high school is doing really, really well. We've got a number of students going to very prestigious universities after graduation this year. Some are going on to lucrative trades through MCST programs. Some are going in the armed forces. And we just recently had 2 students get an internship at Bigelow Labs, which was a competition. So that's also really, really good. Our behavioral referrals are a quarter of what they were even last year, both at the middle school and at the high school. And I'm going to say that's largely in part at the high school. Do we have a really, really solid administrative team and great staff? We added a second assistant principal a year ago, and we now have a school resource officer, Officer John Bagley, on site through a grant program with the city of Rockland. And all those combined have really done amazing for our behavioral referrals at the high school. Middle school, we had a change in administration a year ago. They've got a really great handle on that school. They're working well with the staff. And those behavior referrals are also way, way down, and the number of out-of-school suspensions are down as well. Our chronic absenteeism rate is down, particularly in our elementary schools. Those are looking fantastic. Middle school and high school is still a challenge, but we know that, we're working on that. I can't really say enough about how well our admin team and our teaching staff work together. We just negotiated a 3-year contract with the Teachers Association. It was a very amicable process. It was very successful, and both the board and the teachers have ratified that contract. So we're going into the end of the school year with all those things accomplished. We're also fulfilling one of the board's goals, which is to have universal pre-K. We'll have that next year with the addition of a pre-K classroom at Cushing. We entered into an agreement with the town of Cushing to lease part of their town hall. So we'll start off with littles in the town hall. I think we have 6 now signed up. That's a good thing. We're working on having that pre-K move into the school proper down the road. We're putting some things in place to try to figure out how to do that. So that's my message to you about the schools. You can spend a lot of money on a really poor school system, or you can spend a lot of money on a good school system. And I just want you to know that you're spending your money for good things. Nobody likes their taxes to go up. I know that. We're doing the best we can, given the circumstances that we have, and I'll let Patty not take over, but do your thing, and then we'll go back and forth, and obviously we'll have plenty of opportunity for questions.
What we've done this year is we have put together a sort of a brochure about the budget as well as by each article. The budget in overall is up by 5.23% in expenses. That being said, as John explained, we've gone into a new teacher contract for the next 3 years. Our health insurance benefits, which I'm sure you're all seeing in your own world, went up 13%. That was a pretty steep incline. Last year it was 3.2%, I believe, so it's quite a bit higher. We also had to absorb 1/3 of the remaining COVID-19 grants that we received from the federal government. When we receive these grants, it's the school system's responsibility to take in those funds into the local budget in any way, in any fashion they want to. We smartly did it in thirds. That way it didn't impact the budget as severely as it could. Other school districts are going through pretty much of a cliff as far as when it comes to expenses related to that. Some things that would have saved us in the budget process was that last year we were the first year of the preschool cohort, which I don't know if you have heard about from the DOE. It was a new program that the DOE worked with CDS and school districts that were willing to participate to move away from CDS, which is Child Development Services. We are one of the last states to have that service for pre-K expenses related to special education. So they fund all of those pre-K special education costs for the school district. And we're in year 2 next year. So that saved us to the tune of almost $700,000 this year for 3 and 4-year-olds that we have in the system now. And that will give us the tools and the knowledge so that the hope is that as the kids get older, their needs will be reduced slightly and the expenses will reduce because we know what we're getting from the very beginning and we work with the kids from an very early onset.
Main schools are going to be taking over CDS services for students. It's part of public law now, and as an early adopter, we actually got a significant financial benefit, I guess, from doing that. So the DOE has been very supportive in that process.
We meet once a month, they go over things, they funded even the furniture and the textbooks and so forth in those classrooms. It has been a really great collaborative effort. If you look at your brochure, I did it on the back is the different articles. We'll go through that first, and then I have a revenue sheet for you to go over your revenue sources. Article 1 is regular instruction, and that is largely 91, almost 92% is salaries and benefits for all of our teachers and support staff. That's a 12.1% increase, but it includes after school programs, English as a second language, which is growing tremendously in this district, and the Gifted and Talented program, which is also called ACE at RSU 13. Article 2 is special education. It encompasses all of it. That is down 8.9%, and that is largely due to the pre-K cohort that we're able to expend some of those through the DOE program. Article 3 is career and technical, which is your Midcoast School of Technology. That's a percentage we receive from the Midcoast School of Technology, our share of it. Article 4 is other instruction, which is your co-curricular, extracurricular, or athletics and summer school. This article reflects the end of some of those COVID-19 grant funds that I mentioned to you. Article 5, the student and staff support. That includes social work, guidance services, health services for students, as well as curriculum, staff training. The assistant superintendent, director of curriculum is in that article. Article 6 is system administration, which is the superintendent's office, the business office. John made a decision back in January, I think, to freeze all administrative salaries at 3.2% or cost of living. So all of any principals and senior administrative staff are all at that percentage increase. Article 7 is your school administration, which is your principal's office and staff that work in there. Article 8 is transportation and buses. And that article is up 11.65% from fiscal year 2025, and it includes the purchase of a new bus, which is necessary.
Not an electric bus.
We're not doing that one.
Although the electric bus is working, well, actually, it's not working today.
No.
Last year, we finally got the bus straightened out with the company, with the sales reps. They fixed everything that was wrong with it. They assured us that they would send a spare bus and a driver every time they had to fix it. We had it as a shuttle bus for the Lobster Festival, worked well all year long. Till this morning, when we found out a cable chafed on the suspension, and we got to replace the cable, but the buses work. It's just weird.
But we have a good agreement now with the company that fixes it, and they send us a bus down instead of having to wait without a bus while they fix it. So it works much better this time.
But we're not gonna jump on another electric.
No, we're
bus.
not. Article 9 is your facilities. That's at a 1.71% increase from last year. We do have some good news. If you've seen any of the school board meetings and so forth, we are beginning a ESCO project, which is a
Energy conservation.
With Siemens and Revision Energy, and that will give the schools backup boilers, that will give the schools the LED lighting that's required. That will give us generators for the schools, which will help keep things running, and also potentially these shelters if needed. It's also doing a solar energy on the roofs of most of the schools, which will eliminate most, if not all, of the electrical costs in the next 12 months.
And that's all investor paid for.
Yes.
So they pay for it, they get the tax benefits or whatever from it, and then we get basically free, or no cost, I shouldn't say free, no cost electricity.
We just finalized the figures, unlike during COVID times when we were doing projects where there were no bids for work, there were several bids, so we benefited from that to get the cost down, where it's very doable for next year.
Absolutely is.
And then Article 10 is your debt service. That's up due to the fact that we had those revolving renovation funds, which we've talked about for the last 3 years, and those are starting to be due this year. And so our total budget is 5.23% increase. And as far as the local share, I'm not sure if you're familiar with how the local share is calculated. It's on the DED 279, which is the main DOE's finance sheet for schools. The local required is what the Maine Department of Ed requires for every town to pay for education. It doesn't cover all the expenses. So then you have your local additional debt and your local additional funds as well. Those two are in a formula that you take 25% of the last 3 years' average history of your student enrollment by town. And then 75% is the 3-year average of your property valuations. And that's how you get that percentage. So that sheet, if you have any questions, please give us a call or email and we can explain it to you, but there are your shares. The town of South Thomaston is going to be up 10.6% or about $385,000 from last year. That's it. Does anyone have any questions?
So would you say that our shares being good more by relative enrollment increase, relative valuation increase, or
It's the property
common,
valuation.
or cost?
It's
Combination.
a
A
combination,
combination of two.
but the property valuation is 75% of that formula, so that's.
All right,
bumped it
so
up.
our values are growing faster than anybody else's, pushing not far behind, but.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's that waterfront.
yeah.
Does
And
anyone else-
then I had one other question. I noticed, and this is just more of a curio than anything, I noticed you are doing budget presentations in Cushing and Thomaston and South Thomaston, but not the largest town or municipality in the district, Rockland, and also all said, is there a reason for that? or-
Well, we went to Rockland sort of earlier on in this whole process. And we sort of gave them a little bit of a preview. We tried to schedule a meeting with them, we couldn't. Al said we had scheduled a meeting with them, but they somehow failed to put it on their agenda. And so we don't quite understand what happened, but it didn't work out.
And they wouldn't change the
We were
agenda.
always happy to go anywhere, but,
Yeah, well, I can understand how it failed to be on the agenda. Forget stuff all the time.
Yeah. So that's why but Rockland is familiar with it and they have been in the discussion from the beginning as well, so. Does anyone else have questions? Sure.
I can't find my yellow hand up, so can I ask two questions?
Hold on, Walter, 1 second. There was someone who jumped in ahead of you. We'll get right back to you.
That's fine.
So I was just doing some math on the increase in the budget
Mhm.
from last year to this year, and it appears to be 2,040,370 approximately. But when you add up all the increases of the 5 towns, it is 2,221,808. So there seems to be a discrepancy.
No, and that is just the percentage from differences from last year. So there's this sheet here has the increases for you.
So-
You're looking at expenses?
So the
On the
I'm
town
looking at the amount that you're gonna get extra from
Yeah, it's
these,
right here. So this is last year's figure.
sorry.
This is last year's figure, and this is this year's figure, and there's the total that I put up there for you. Okay,
I'm still not getting, like, these numbers, shouldn't they equal the increase? Or
no,
not?
because there's other components in it, this is just the local piece,
Oh, okay,
okay? So here's that sheet for you too.
oh, okay,
There you go. So you can see all the different sources of.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, Walter's a former select board member.
Yes.
Walter?
Thank you, John. First of all, to Superintendent McDonald, and can I call you John?
go ahead.
I'll call you John if you call me Walter. You
Okay.
mentioned the 3.2%, I think, COLA for the administration. Have you had attrition problems associated with compensation issues? And should we be concerned about that with your professional
You mean,
staff?
have I had turnover on my administrative team?
Yeah, well, everybody yes.
No,
Okay, that's a
they're
good thing.
very loyal. They're probably, well, I won't say probably, they are the best administrators I've ever worked with.
Great.
And they've stuck with us through thick and thin.
And Katie, can I call you Katie?
Sure.
Since you signed your emails that way. I think I have the spreadsheets that you just passed out, but can you just save me some analytical trouble? So
Absolutely.
our share, our percentage share is 12.8%. And it's 12.8% of what number? I've been having trouble getting that in my my own analysis.
So that's the calculation I just talked about. So to get that 12.8, that spread, I sent you that spreadsheet with the 3 years evaluations.
Right,
So you're gonna take 25% of the population, the average 3 years, and that makes 25% of that 12.8. And then you take 75% is the 3 years average of the property valuations. You put those two together and you get your 12.8.
Okay, that was,
It was not a formula that we requested, we were given it, so it's a convoluted way of looking at things.
so for the, for the select board, it seems to me that if the major driver of our share increase is the increase in our property values, then we have more of this unpleasantness in light of, the pleasantness of the last couple of years to look forward to. Do you agree with that? And it has nothing to do with the school budget or the school. It has to do with the economics of property values as they impact that formula.
I agree with you on that one.
And it's also based, unless it's changed, on state valuation, not our local valuation.
That is true, it's for main revenue services, that's where the
Right.
valuations
So no
come
matter
from.
what we call it, it doesn't matter.
That is correct. So that they're.
But John, how close is, how close do you think our reval will be to what the state says 3 years from now when we complete our evaluation? How close is it today?
It's not close at all.
It's not close at all today, but
Right, and hopefully it'll be 100%, but that's hopefully. We're gonna go through a reval.
And that's on the agenda later on.
Yeah, so my point is that I don't want people to think because we're gonna probably increase values in a reval, that's gonna make it worse. That's why I asked the
Yeah,
question.
it won't, because they use different data than you guys do.
And Walter, also the averages on the ED 279s from the last 3 years are also averages of the last 2 years. So you're going back. So like 3 years ago, it was the average of 2 years prior to that, and then, so it's,
So
Averages of our.
It's a rolling.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
so, and on the academic side, certainly locally, the share increase will be an unpleasant surprise to a lot of people, depending upon how the select board handles the final commitment. But John, to me, the more you can do to publicize improvement or success in student outcomes, the better off you will be in terms of selling not only the budget to South Thomaston, but to everybody else. And I know it's difficult because your student population is not growing as fast as your budget and your spending requirements. So just a leave behind from me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We've been working with the board all year long, giving reports and sharing data, and I've been at every time. I've told them, what's happening with student performance, with attendance, with behavior, and so on. And I feel we're really moving in a good place. The COVID pandemic really hit us hard, like every other school in the state of Maine or school system, and the country for that matter. But we've rebounded very, very well. So.
Well, thank you, guys. I'll give the meeting back to the select board.
Thank you. Okay, other questions or anything else you folks want to offer?
I'd like to remind everybody that the budget vote for all of the towns is May 21st at Oceanside High School at 6 p.m. And then the budget validation vote is on June 10th at your town offices.
The second one being a referendum where the polls are open from 8 to 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the second thing I think is, any of your townspeople have any questions, they just want to talk or whatever, have them give us a call. We're happy to talk to them.
I do have one question. You mentioned several times that were grant monies that were in the second year of, or we're starting into, like the cohort. When do those drop off?
They don't.
They don't.
And we were told, now I'm telling you what the DOE told us, that those funds are in perpetuity. So as long as we have this cohort going, the funds are guaranteed. And what we do is we send a quarterly billing to them with student counts, and they pay us a certain amount per student. And then any expenses that are in excess of what they assume will be per student, we get reimbursed for that as well.
Okay.
So it's 100% funded.
And the COVID money, that dropped off this year.
That is
After this
finished,
year.
yes.
Okay.
This was the last year.
So we're not looking at any other cliffs to go over?
No.
And then just as a comment, in years past, the fight against the budget has typically been because of the increases in the administrative side of it. And I think besides selling how well the schools are doing test-wise, this budget appears to put the increases in regular instruction and other instruction and student staff support. But system administration is down and school administration is only at 5.8%.
That was
So,
the goal.
yeah, so that, I think that's an excellent job doing that. And that is part of what you ought to sell to
Thank you.
the non-believers, I guess.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I guess, what is our percentage we're getting now under, from the state, under essential programs and services? I saw it on here earlier.
It's right here. Side. 55%.
No, that's statewide.
Yes,
I'm
and then
talking about,
and the subsidy is 19.32.
so we get 19.32.
Correct.
So, and that's what I wanted to point out to people, that you hear a lot of talk that the state funds 55% of the educational system, but that's statewide, not individual districts. Some districts, it funds 90% and others 2%. So,
That is true.
and we're not sitting on the great side of that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Want some copies for your town office?
Sure.
Regular too. Thank you.
President, but thank you for all the other work you're doing. I know these meetings aren't the most exciting part of life, but they're very important. So
Thank you.
thank you. Yes.
Okay, let's jump back to minutes. Do we want to take these all at once? Are we prepared to do that? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that to approve the minutes from April 5th, April 14th, April 15th, April 16th, April 22nd, April 30th, and May 5th.
I will second that.
Okay, I just have one comment. On the last meeting, there has been some information floating around, which I think caused quite a bit of confusion. That indicated that we voted to put in place a moratorium on mineral extraction. We did not do that. And what we did vote was to put a moratorium, a possible moratorium on mineral extraction, on the warrant for the upcoming June town meeting. And Terry has captured that in these minutes. And it's causing actually a fair amount of confusion, so I just wanted to kind of point that out to folks. So, given that, any other comments? All those in favor? And I should have asked, are you here for a particular item or?
Full disclosure, I looked on the website yesterday, to see when the next select board meeting was, because I've applied for the position of town administrator. I'm from Collins, and I don't know if you're gonna discuss me tonight. If you don't want me to be here, I can leave, but I was just coming to observe the select board meeting.
Yeah, we are gonna discuss that, but I think we're gonna do it in executive session.
Okay.
So we won't be discussing it publicly, so, but you're welcome to stay until we get to that, so. Okay, public comment for items not on the agenda. Doesn't look like we're gonna have a lot of that. This is for anybody in the, this is the quietest meeting we've had in a long time.
It is.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised too.
I've been waiting for Thursday.
That's right.
I invited Cory to join us because I thought it'd be nice for her to, you know, put a face to a name and then nobody's here.
I think this is the quietest one I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'm amazed. I thought we were gonna have a good sized crowd tonight, so. Let's get rid of some of these adjustments, the Eva Burke one, because we tend to forget that, and the donations are on, so we'll go back to that, but. Is there the resiliency committee, as I understand, is an ad hoc committee that has no. Set number of members. Is that your understanding, Terry? And
That's my understanding.
so I'm more than willing to appoint somebody who comes recommended. Is there a motion to do that?
I move we appoint Eva Burke to the Resiliency Committee.
Okay,
I'll second that.
and also let's dispose of the signature notice of election.
Vote on that.
I'm just afraid I'll forget them, you know, because they're hand scratched here and.
Did you want to vote on?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, all those in favor, okay. Terry, you let her know. So that was in our original packet, right? No, it wasn't, the paperwork for the RSU 13 came out separately, correct?
Yes,
Is that here on the table?
the paperwork is in the folder to be signed.
Oh, it's over here.
Oh, okay. I just wanna get the names right, so when you make the motion, that we are executing the proper documents.
None of these here.
I mean, this is really just a ministerial function where we. Okay, one is,
There's like a zillion of them.
yeah, but they're two different documents, right?
No,
Just one?
yeah,
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to have the board execute a warrant and notice of election calling for regional school unit number 13 budget validation referendum?
So moved.
Is there a second? And I think John told us the date on that was June
June
10th,
10th.
which is the regular election day.
Graduation.
All those in favor?
Always on graduation.
Okay. Well, why, they always know when the election's gonna be, why do they keep doing
It's
graduation?
almost always the
Huh?
second, it's almost always the second Tuesday of the month.
I think our elections have been on the second Tuesday of the month for 300 years, so.
I know.
it's only a problem when it's a problem.
Right?
So we don't have to sign, countersign a document for the meeting?
Yes,
Yes, that's what that
It's-
is.
No, that's for the referendum, I'm talking about the budget meeting.
no,
Oh, for
Okay.
on the 21st?
no, the registrar of voters will be there to sign
Yeah,
voters.
for the meeting, okay. I couldn't remember how that all went. And we'll take up donations after we've dealt with Bill, okay. Update on the solar rebate, Terry, briefly, anything?
Yes, we now have a registration number so that we can apply for our rebate on a Form 990T. Which I really don't know all of what that means. I've downloaded about that much paperwork on it. And that'll be in my next list of things to start working on.
So this rebate for. Forget what it's gonna be for, about 50,000?
No,
No?
14,000.
I thought it was
14,000.
like 16.
It's starting to cost us like twice what. Well, I'm being facetious, but we are getting there.
Yes, we've gone to the step of, we have the registration number. You couldn't do anything without the registration
Yeah.
number.
Okay. And do we have an update on the FEMA grant reimbursement?
We do. I received an email that they need nothing more from us. We just need to be patient. They're pushing out payments as fast as they can.
Okay, and remind me the amount of this again, is it
80-something thousand,
80,000? Okay. So that's definitely worth pursuing.
yes.
Okay, hiring a new town administrator, I'd like to push this to the end and go into executive session, or at least consider that.
Okay.
We've done the school budget presentation. We need this, with a moratorium ordinance that I just referred to, is a land use ordinance. We need to set a public hearing date for that. Because we're required to have one by law for our zoning ordinance. And plus, I thought we should couple that with a few of the other articles on the warrant, like the reval and a couple other things. And Terry and I figured out the dates, and we have a very small window to comply with, and June 2nd worked,
Mhm.
which is a Tuesday, I believe.
No, Monday, the second is
That's a
Monday.
Monday.
Okay, was it the 3rd then?
Third is a Tuesday.
Did the third give us enough time? Does the third give us 7 days to get the warrant out?
Well,
Or get the
Before,
warrant posted?
before the 10th?
well,
Or-
it
or
would be
you mean-
before the 10th, but it would be, that's a good question. Does it have to be before the meeting starts, or does it have to be before the meeting? I'm assuming it has to be before the meeting, but if not, I'm not sure we can do it.
Well, we wouldn't bring it up until the meeting, so,
Yeah, so to me, we certainly can argue that it was 7 days
yeah,
before it was discussed, so. And who's gonna sue us over it, I mean,
great. Good point.
so,
So the second or the Monday or the Tuesday?
no, I think we were talking Tuesday, right?
Tuesday's the 3rd,
Which,
and that's gonna be a public
Be a public hearing.
hearing.
We have to have one for the proposed moratorium ordinance. But we also can include that just an information session, for lack of a better word, on the reval, which I think is important.
Yeah.
And Sonia has 3 little articles related to the preserve out back, and there was one other, well, the budget discussion in general, so. So does the 3rd work for folks?
I might have to Zoom on
Okay.
that one, because I'm having surgery on the 21st
Yeah,
for my knee.
okay. But that works. Work for you, Jeff?
I can make it work.
Terry, does it work for you?
I can't think that far ahead, sure.
Okay, so,
Time.
Although, John, it might not be me. Might not be my problem,
well, I think it's still well on June 3rd.
Wishful thinking.
Okay, is there a motion to set a public hearing, regarding, I guess, just say several warrant articles for the, 2025 annual town meeting?
So
Or
for
6
18
o'clock?
Yeah,
Yeah.
6 o'clock on
Yeah.
the 3rd.
Okay,
Is there some
I'll second.
further discussion? All those in favor? Okay. And then, Terry and I were talking, about the last meeting, reviewing what was going on, and we never did formally refer, to the ordinance review committee, a request that they work on, and this is completely separate from the moratorium.
Right.
The work, whether we do that passes or not, that we work on, an amendment to our ordinance, regarding mineral extraction. I think that was our intent.
Yeah.
You, as you're on that committee, and you talked about, you thought that was the place to go, but we never actually did it.
True.
So, is there a motion to, request that the ordinance review committee, begin working on a proposal to amend our ordinance for, purposes related to mineral extraction?
So moved.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Town report cover, big decisions. The pictures we got. They weren't as many, anywhere near as many as last year. I abstain. I could care less.
Oh, let's do that. Well, then I make a motion that we do the one with the house facades. In the water,
The artwork, yeah.
and the artwork of the gig.
You know which one he's talking about?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second that. I want that one. That was my pick too.
Yeah.
Walter has hand raised.
Oh,
Oh.
Paul did not like it.
Sorry, I don't.
Oh,
see you.
no, I have no opinion on the cover.
Well, your hands up.
Well, I just didn't get it up in time. So the ordinance review for mineral extraction, does that apply to things like rare earth extraction and lithium and all that? Or is the shall I say controversy over quarrying a completely separate issue?
No, that's exactly what it is. It's the quarrying.
But it
Mineral
could
extraction.
be gravel pits too.
Right.
And remember,
Yeah.
we had
Oh,
a big
okay.
time gravel pits a few years back and. But I think technically it's how the ordinance actually ends up defining mineral extraction.
Yeah.
But typically, it would run the gamut from lithium to gravel.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably may not be scientifically accurate, but that clears something up because I thought they were two separate things, and one has a different level of controversy in the general milieu than the other, which is more
Yeah.
local. So I don't envy you guys dealing with that.
Well, that's why we have this brilliant ordinance review committee. Okay, where are we? Town report cover, we dealt with that. I don't need to worry about that. The annual approve the draft warrant for inclusion. I've been working with Terry on fleshing out some of the non-routine articles. One is the evaluation. I don't know if people had a chance to look at that. I think that covers it, but again, this is just a draft, although it doesn't say that, Terry.
It does.
Yep. Oh, right there. Usually you got this big thing
Well,
across. Yeah.
that's in Word and Excel. It's a little harder to put draft on.
Okay. So we good with Article 5? These all, have they been proofread for like little typos and stuff?
I gave it to Phil, yes.
And so he's done with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Cause I actually didn't get a chance to reread them again, so I would like to do that, so. When we get to the motion, maybe we can say substantially in the same format, in case we find a little typo or something. And then we have the moratorium, ordinance on mineral extraction, which comes from our attorney. So I think we're all good with that, right?
Mhm.
And then we have the budget, and I don't know if anyone's checked the numbers and,
I did.
okay, I
They
did.
all match my numbers, so.
Yeah, that must be the right.
And then we have 3 articles related to the forest reserve. One is to, as you may or may not know, when that property, which was the Klein property and the Smith property, was conveyed to us, there were 2 lots in Klein's ownership and 3 lots dating back to the 1600s or something in Smith's name. So our lawyer has recommended, who's doing this work pro bono for us, that we combine those into 1 lot. Particularly for the easement, because if you didn't, we'd have to have the easement go to each of the individual lots. And that would be crazy. Just getting it surveyed would be crazy, but, so this eliminates that problem by creating 1 lot. So I think we're good there, although I do think that before we finalize the deed, we probably want to go back to the attorney with this, but the legal description comes from the survey that Beal did which is pretty extensive. And basically, the right of way follows, I think everyone knows, follows the Stump Dump Road out to the Woods Road, then goes right where the Stump Dump Road goes across Prethero's land, follows that old Woods Road up to past the Bork parcel out there, and then takes a left where there is no road or anything, and goes back to the Smith border and terminates there. And we need that in order to get reimbursed from the Maine for Land's Future, because they have to be assured there's public access to it. And even though we own this land, it is theoretically possible we could sell this land in the future, and then there would be no public access to the preserve. That's why they're demanding that, so. I don't think that's likely, but, 100 years is a long time, so. And then the last,
Just a procedural question.
yeah,
Do all of the meets and bounds have to be in the warrant, or can they be attached?
we can have them outside if you want.
You could. But it's not more than,
A page, isn't it? Or maybe it's
no, it's
two.
like 4 or 5 pages, 10 pages. It's a lot of pages to have it out.
I just thought it would be better to have it in, so we know exactly what,
Which one's attached
Which
to
one
which
is-
one.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
so,
People are just, their eyes are gonna go crazy and they're just gonna slip by it anyway.
yeah, I have too, and now that, you guys have approved these.
I filled it.
Like, whoa.
Take notice.
Actually, very good.
Oh, that's good. And then the final article, and I don't know if this would be in the form of a deed or not, I'm hoping to find that out, or just a letter. That it was notarized from Jeff Smith, lessening these conditions to allow. And Sonna told me there was still a mistake in here too, there's supposed to be a strike through. No, it's there, what's she talking about? Okay, the current restrictions in the Smith's deed don't allow us to do any timber harvesting or planting. And kind of the intent was, so we weren't going into the timber business and selling timber. But it could be construed to prevent us harvesting diseased trees, for example, which we'd want to harvest to help improve the health of the forest. Or planting invasive species, if invasive species are taken over and getting rid of them. Jeff's on board with this. I mean, it was sort of one of those things when we wrote it up, we weren't thinking of, oh, that means you can't do this. But having said all that, sorry. I'm just gonna let that ring. Having said all that, I'm wondering if the town even needs to deal with it. I mean, Jeff can do what he wants to do, and
No, yeah, we do, because we own it.
that's the point. A deed from him to me is, I guess you could call it a corrective deed. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But we can do, but for now, let's keep it. But deed might not even be the right term. Maybe we just need a certified letter notarized and recorded referencing the restrictions. I don't know.
Are the restrictions on the deed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know how, if he doesn't own it anymore, how
How he can change?
he
anything?
can change.
I don't either.
Yeah, so that's something we need to figure out.
And I mean, I feel if you're cutting dead trees, you're not really harvesting.
Well, some people are much more fussy than you and I won't mention any names, but.
But I mean, I also think that, I mean, he didn't intend us to have the land just sit there and not do anything with it.
No, but he clearly said no timber harvesting. Those are definitely in there, so. I mean, I think that the changes, I don't have a problem with it at all. It's the mechanism to kind of get there. I'm not sure what once I started writing and thinking it through, I'm thinking, well, he doesn't own it, how can he give us a deed that affects? But it could be some sort of corrective deed, I suppose. We need to look at it a little,
Yeah.
that's all I'm saying. But I think it's better to have it in there in the draft and then take it out, rather than not have it in the draft and put it in.
Okay.
So, so with that, are we good to go?
Yeah.
So is there a motion to, we're not gonna sign it, but to, accept the draft warrant with the understanding that, any, typos or missing words or something like that can be corrected between now and next Tuesday?
So moved.
Second,
Further discussion? All those in favor? Good, okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Terry. That was, I know that was a lot, but I actually was sitting up at 2 a.m. typing that when I couldn't sleep one night. I don't believe we have a memorandum between South Thompson and St. George in front of us for the climate action plan grant. So I guess we table this? Have you heard back from
I
Neil?
haven't heard back from him at all.
And he was the one who was worried about the time sensitivity, so.
okay, well, table.
Is there a motion to table?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Certified ratio declaration. I happened to come in Tuesday, was Kevin here? Monday, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see he's recommending it's 30%, which, factor rate on our property to get us into the 91%. Which then allows us to certify so people don't lose the value of their homestead exemption or some of the value of their homestead exemption in veterans. But since our reval is not gonna be done until 27, I asked him, I said, why don't we give ourselves a little cushion? And maybe try to avoid factoring again next year. And he said, well, that's your decision, and so I chatted with him a little more and tried to probe another recommendation out of him, and he thought that after the long chat we had, he was kind of thinking that maybe 40% made sense, because it got us high enough that it didn't get us overvalued. But it did give us a little cushion, and you know, and if property values stop increasing next year at the rate that they have been, that there's a possibility we might not have to factor again next year. So I'm, based on the chat I have with them, I'm recommending we adopt the 40% factoring. And then we also have to vote to certify these with some, and give him direction on the factoring rate, so he can fill it out properly, so. But Jeff, this is kind of your expertise area, so.
And what, and I'm looking for it right now, I saw it before,
What's that?
the actual difference between ours and theirs.
70%, wasn't it? No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw it too. We were down quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I guess it is 70.
Yeah,
70%.
70%.
If we do 40, that'll put us over 100%, right?
Yeah, but that's okay, he said. That's what he told me. The 30 gets us to 91.
Yeah, see, that's why I'm trying to figure, because I thought we were at 70. If we did 30, that would put us at 100, so.
Yeah, but I think he applies 30 to the value. I'm not sure that gets us.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really in the weeds, and it would be nice if he could have been here, but. Well, I just wanna, I mean, if we don't factor.
I think we absolutely need to.
Yeah. Because the only people who get punished by that are residents who have homestead exemptions. Well,
And veterans.
and veterans,
Yeah.
but the major impact is on people's homestead exemption.
Right.
So if I live in Connecticut and own a piece on the water here, I don't get punished by
Right.
us being at 91%, or excuse me, 89%, or anything below 91. But if I'm a local resident and I got a homestead exemption, I'm gonna start seeing a reduction in the value I can take off my tax bill, so.
And it's right now it would be a 30% reduction.
Yeah.
How much is the homestead exemption?
What's it, up to 25,000 now?
Yeah.
So it's a fairly,
Oh,
I
it
mean,
just takes it off the value.
takes it up the back,
Right.
Okay.
yeah, but if you own a double wide on the Grissom Road, that's a significant amount of your value.
Yeah, it doesn't decrease by a percentage, it decreases by a flat amount, so.
So. Anyways. He kept saying, it's your decision. I kept saying, Kevin, I know that, but it's, what do you think about 40? And he said, yeah, he said, that's fine with me, so. And he
What if
kind
you
of,
split the difference into 35?
I just don't think that's gonna get us enough to, what I'm trying to do is avoid doing the factoring again. And,
Well,
Although,
we were hoping we would have done that last year, but here we are again.
well, I think we knew we weren't gonna have to make it happen.
yeah, I was thinking very optimistically that we wouldn't have to do it this year. But
But the profit, I mean, the property values are, based on the sales data, are just screaming high. I mean, they're just.
But, you know, I think, see, there's another way. No, so it's this year.
Hmm,
I'm looking at the options for
Yeah.
certifying
Yeah.
something other. I mean, we could do it,
Well, we're definitely not gonna have a total revale. We're
right,
not even thinking of a partial.
but the question is, next year, would we be able to say a total reevaluation will be implemented this year? And therefore certify it on
Ah,
next year, right?
that's a possibility.
Which will come true.
Right. Although, implemented is the key word in it, and technically, I don't think we're gonna actually implement the revow. Till the
Yeah,
following
that's
year,
right, yeah, so I'm not sure that does cut it.
Yeah,
No, it doesn't. And the other fear I have is if we cut it so close. That when he goes through and does all the factoring, we miss it by a
Yeah.
tiny little bit, so. That's why I'd at least like to go with your thought of 35. Just to give us a little cushion on, in case we miss it.
Mhm.
and the other part that I wasn't positive of. Because one of the other reasons you can do it other than you could claim 100% is a total reeval or partial reeval based at market was implemented last year. And we did. So,
Well, we haven't even, yeah, we're voting on it in
no,
June.
last year.
No, we're voting on it in June. Hard to argue we implement it, well, we haven't voted on it.
No, a total revow was implemented last
Oh,
year.
you mean you're talking about the next year?
No, last year. Okay, this is for this year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so the choice is that we're gonna implement a partial adjustment this year. That's number two. Number three is, we did it last year. Which would imply that their numbers that they're comparing could have been prior to our
I
adjustment.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
When does this need to be in?
June 2nd.
Can we ask him to zoom into our next meeting?
Yep.
Or at least get, maybe Jeff, you could talk to him on the phone, because you have different
Yeah.
questions than I had. If he can't be here. I think this is important and he needs to
Yeah.
be here. Cause we're speculating here.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so, I just don't have a warm fuzzy that
Yeah.
what they used was
Yeah,
our final.
I'm hear you, right, I'm hear you. Okay, so is there a motion to table this until our next meeting?
Second.
When is our next meeting before June seventh?
Yes.
May 27th.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, all those.
Hey, can I ask, I got
Whoops, sorry.
got my yellow hand up.
Walter, speak up, because I don't see your little yellow hand.
It's there, but.
I just try to follow Zoom protocol all the time. So factoring, by definition, put this in dum-dum for me. The factoring by definition, all other things being equal, like the mill rate, raises any individual's tax bill. If you factor.
No. As a matter of fact, nobody's tax bill goes up if you apply an equal factor to everybody.
Okay, so this is treat everybody unfairly.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Like we have been the past couple of years.
yeah, we could,
So,
the impact will be a lower mill rate than what you would have if you didn't do it.
oh, explain that to me.
So that the amount of taxes are the same.
So, but there is one math problem here that some people might want to take advantage of, and that's the trade-off between losing a piece of my homestead exemption, but paying a lower tax bill. Does that equation factor into?
No, if you lose a piece of your valuation, you're gonna pay a higher tax bill.
Right.
Well, it depends on what the increase in the tax bill is.
Assuming there's an increase, yes.
Right.
And when was the last time there wasn't? So I'll let that speak for itself.
Well, I'm 76 and that's never happened in my lifetime.
So,
Yeah.
Okay. So,
This should not change what your tax bill would be. Because we're raising
everybody, right.
Okay, so the three things that come out of it is, or that you use is the valuation, how much your taxes are, and then what you get from that is the mill rate. So if your valuation goes up, your taxes, the taxes for the town stays the same, so the mill rate goes down. Okay, so you end up with the same amount coming out. No, there's no increase in your taxes.
now that's of course, that's predicated that everything else remains equal, which of course it won't, but.
It won't, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little marketing hint. All that red on the assessors section of the website, to me, it is a warning signal that bad stuff is going to happen because of the factoring increase. And what you're saying is that that's not necessarily true. So,
Right, and that's the same thing is true with the reval.
right,
If
exactly.
everydy's value went up 20%, then everybody's mill rate would fall the same amount and you'd pay exactly to the penny, the same amount in taxes. And that's a hard concept to get across to people.
Right. So we, not me, you guys have a big education process to do as the reval unfolds. Because
Yes.
I can tell you that revaluation and the association of my taxes are going to go up is a widely held myth.
Right, and it is a myth, yes. Now, what's different from what we're doing right now what we're doing is we're applying the same increase factor to everybody,
Right.
30 or 40%, right? In a reval, you don't. You figure out what the value is of each property.
Mhm.
So one property could go up 20%, one could drop 10%. So in a reval, there could be, very likely, there will be an impact on how much you pay in taxes.
Right.
Some people, yeah, up or down, most people.
Most people.
Yeah. But to me, and then now we're back to treat everybody equally unfairly. The quality ratio, which they call it, which is the relative difference, is more important. I don't care if everybody's valued at 70% or 130%, as long as everybody's valued equally. No, I'm serious.
Right.
Oh, no.
When one property is valued at 130% of its value and another property is valued at 60% of its value, that becomes unfair.
Yeah, I've used that line about equally unfairly, John, more times than I can count since you first articulated it to me.
Well, it's true.
All right, thank you, guys.
Okay,
Keep
Okay.
a go.
all right, so did we table this?
Yes.
All right, discussion. Yeah, I think we did. Discussion of the Radcliffe Memorial and Hopkins Scholarship. Sue, can you read this? 'Cause I never know what we're doing here.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to determine how much we could use. But we don't want to take too much because we like to keep it there for a long time. And I think we had 4 applications for each one
Last year or this year?
for this year. 2 of them, or maybe there were 5. 2 of them were reapplications from people that got it last year.
Do they all collect them? Or do some of them not make the
Some of
grade
them- Some of them,
Come back.
and it goes unspent?
yeah, and some don't come back, and some of them just don't follow through on their paperwork. The same thing at the high school. I mean, I do this for 30 or 40 different scholarships,
Yeah.
and some kids just never ask for the money.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, or, you know, they're not good at keeping a track of their paperwork either,
Yeah.
so.
All right, so do we have and they decide, the individual of, they being this committee of you, the board?
No, the committee is, the principal of the high school, the superintendent, and our school board rep.
Okay,
But if he's out of, I don't know, how long is he out of town?
I don't know.
It might end up just being John and Jesse.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
So, but they decide, where it's allocated and how much per individual. We just need to come up with a
Correct.
total
We
number.
just need to come up with how,
2 total. numbers,
what
right?
they have to write.
One for each.
So
pot of
one for
money.
the Radcliffe and one for the
Okay,
Hopkins.
do we have a recommendation or are we doing?
Last year we did 10 for the Radcliffe,
Hopkins,
for the Hopkins.
And
And what did we do for the Radcliffe?
25. And that was not collected,
none of it?
the 2,500, no,
Oh, 2,500.
2,500.
No.
2,500, whoever got that scholarship did not.
So that's all we put out on the Radcliffe one was 2,500?
Yep,
Was that because we were trying to use the interest?
I think so.
So, yeah.
So we wanna do the same this year?
Just use the interest?
No, do we wanna just go 10 and 25 again? 2,500.
Well, I mean, the interest on the
I think we have
Radcliffe is,
more applicants this year.
We do.
Well, somebody throw out a number, I'll vote for it.
well, I guess the real question is, do we want to dip into
The principal.
the principal, which is, if we go above 2,000 and 7,000 respectively,
We're gonna dip in a
we'll
little
dip
bit.
into it.
Well, we can, so that becomes, because with the 10 years has gone by now, right?
Mhm.
So the question is, do we want to?
What if we did, just dip in a little bit, did 2,500 on Radcliffe and then do
8,000.
8 on the other one?
Yeah, that's what I.
Then I-
Motion?
Yes, that's the motion.
I'll second.
Yeah. Okay,
25 and 8?
Yeah.
further discussion? All those in favor? and I'm banking somebody won't come and get theirs, so.
And in most cases, it's the same people applying for both.
Yeah.
So, sometimes they don't, but typically it is.
Okay. So moving on, accommodation, adjustments, amendments to the demo debris rules, and I guess I'm not looking to formally do it tonight, but I just want to discuss briefly with you. I've been out there. I went out with Dana two Saturdays ago, spent the whole day out there, watched the new rules and troubles we had, and the biggest problem is a lot of people didn't have a new sticker. We cut them some slack and said, okay, you can dump, but you're gonna have to get a new sticker. And Phil tells me that everybody but one that first week has come in now and got a sticker.
Okay.
And there was a little confusion around that, because when they came in, say, a month ago, they were told the stickers aren't ready. And of course, you know, they haven't been back in, and now all of a sudden they are ready, so, but the two issues that came, they're kind of stupid, and if you think about them, is two people came in with a little tiny single axle trailer that's actually probably smaller than the back of my pickup truck, and they were both hooked to a pickup truck. And for a single axle trailer, the new fee, say we charge X, I can't remember what it is. But for, whether you got a half a load, a quarter load, or two sticks, or rounded trailer. But if you got a pickup truck, you charge, and you have a half load or less, there's no charge. So both guys said, so if I take this out of my trailer and put it into the back of my pickup truck, and then put it in the dumpster, I don't get a charge? And I said, yeah, you're right, that is a good point. So, Dana and I made the big executive session with the two guys that, that we think a single axle trailer that's similar to a pickup body size has less than a half a load, it too should not have a charge. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So you can't argue with somebody out there on it.
Is it likely that a single axle would be larger than that?
Mhm.
Is it likely that a single axle?
Well, it could be, but I mean, you know, how much are we going to get into splitting hairs here? And
Yeah, okay.
and it's confusing to Dana, and I don't know, so. I'd like to do that. The other thing is, I don't think the idea of having the property owner be responsible for buying the sticker, if a contractor, buying the voucher, if a contractor is working on their property, is gonna work well. I think they just the contractors show up with stuff, they have a voucher, they know they need a voucher. And I think we've solved that problem in a better way, because I've learned that prior to this, Dana really wasn't asking where the stuff came from. It was basically, if you had a sticker, you could do it.
Yeah.
And now we've got him into the habit of where the stuff come from. And sure, some people are gonna lie and say it came from South Thomaston, but now in the new form, you gotta write down the street address or where it came from, and the phone number of the property owner.
Is that when you buy the voucher?
No, when he dumps.
Shouldn't they do it when they buy? The
I
voucher?
don't know what they do when they buy a voucher, do you?
I mean, I would think if a contractor is buying a voucher, they should tell you the name of the homeowner,
Yeah.
their phone number.
Yeah,
their
and that may
I
happen,
wouldn't do it just out there.
that may happen, I don't know. But that system is gonna be very cumbersome. And and I think we can solve it in much less cumbersome ways.
Yeah.
And that's one of them.
Yeah.
Is when they come in
Because
and
if
buy.
you do it there, I mean, I think
But
they're less.
the other
likely
problem
to-
with that is the contractors wanna come in and they wanna buy 7 vouchers, you know, because they got jobs coming up and they know they're gonna need them. So if you step back from this, what's our real interest? Our real interest is we wanna make sure the stuff comes from the town of South Thompson. Correct. And if there's easier ways to get at that, I think we should work with folks and do that. I mean, we're already requiring that every vehicle that comes in now have a sticker. So if it's Forge Roofing, you know, they got 20 vehicles, they all gotta have a sticker.
Right.
Whereas before, they would just pass the sticker around they might have a couple just to make it easy, but, so. That's kind of what's evolving here. I'm not looking for any formal action tonight, but that's a good point. Let's check. I agree with you, when they buy the vouchers, that maybe one of the things is, okay, where are you gonna use this from? And as long as we get that phone number, we can always call and verify, hey, did so-and-so do work at your house? And, or even the threat of that, is,
Well, that's why I think if you do it here, I mean, it's recorded.
yeah,
I
You
think
said-
right now
You said
it
it
should
was
be.
at that address and that owner and that phone number.
Well, I think,
And if they
with-
need 7, they can give the information for
Yeah.
7 of them.
well, I think right now, the way it's written is when they get the voucher, it either has to be the homeowner or the homeowner calls and says so-and-so is coming to get a voucher.
Yeah, they can pay for it and then they can say the contractor can pick it up,
Right.
but yeah. Yeah, and I did discover there are people, and I think these are people I know, I'm not gonna mention any names, who honestly didn't realize. That the stuff had to come from South Thomaston. One person came in and we asked him where the stuff was from, and he said, it was just a little brush, and he said, from my apartment in Rockland, my apartment unit in Rockland. And we said, well, you can't dump that here. He said, what do you mean? I've been doing that for years.
Is he a resident?
Yeah. Yeah. And he was very polite, He said, no, I get it. He turned around, went
Yeah.
out with his load of brush and, but I don't think anybody had ever. I truly believe nobody had ever said to him, does that come from the town of South Thomas? And so. That's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
It's working, it's a work in progress, so. Okay, monthly reports, fire CEO, ambulance, Terry, again, your reports are great.
Thank you.
They're good reading too.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah, they're interesting. And the ambulance reports are much, much better, and the fire department reports are good. Ordinance Review Committee, Linda Garrett has withdrawn her request to be appointed to the Ordinance Review Committee. And we also have, Irv Curtis has requested to be appointed. Oh, you have Eva Burke on here. Why did we do that as an adjustment?
Oh,
Brain cramp.
Okay, doesn't matter. Irvin Curtis is asked to be appointed to the Ordinance Review Committee. My understanding is we do have 2 vacancies there.
yeah,
And so we don't need to take any action on Linda at all. So is there a motion regarding Irv?
I would make a motion to table it until, the ordinance review committee can meet. And determine if they need. We already have one person from the planning board. And so I'm not sure we need a second person from the planning board. I mean, there's 2 ways to do rewrite ordinances, land use ordinances. One is you have a committee that's what they do, is rewrite ordinances and write new ones. The other way is that the planning board itself does it.
And we've chosen the former.
Right, and primarily because the planning board in the past has not had the opportunity, I guess, to meet in addition to their planning board duties, to hammer out an ordinance review. And so I'd like to talk to the other 2 members before we open it up to another person from the planning board.
Yeah.
Basically.
Well, I'll support your motion to table it. I have a couple of concerns with Irv, to be honest. So one is we continually appoint him to committees because he's always gonna retire and he never does. And then he doesn't make the meetings and sometimes it makes it difficult to get a quorum. That's one concern. The other concern I have is, I feel like on this committee, Irv, I just think back, and maybe I got this wrong, but I think back to when we were dealing with the state changes regarding housing and stuff, and we had our attorney, we got a small grant, have our attorney help us, and I felt like he didn't want to pay attention to her, and that kind of bothered me a little bit, so. But, so I'll support the motion to table it, but for different reasons. So is there a motion to table
Yes, I move we table.
And I'll second that.
it? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, donations, we have a donation to the fire department, $150 from Diane and Ashley Post. Is there a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, further discussion? All those in favor? We have a donation from Michael, and I thought it was. I think we're missing her name. That's their last name, right?
Yes, that's the last name. So I saw her name somewhere.
Okay.
It's on the check.
Yeah, look.
Doesn't have it in the bedroom.
No,
Oh, you might have, I don't know.
no. I don't see a copy of that check.
No.
No, because that was not part of the one.
Yeah,
right,
They-
Yeah, okay,
I'll
well,
put her name in.
yeah. From Michael, Mr. and Mrs. Kalinowski for $2,500. To be used for Guilford Butler Library building. This is not library operations, this is
Correct.
to the,
Yeah,
and he did fill out a form,
Yes.
correct, and we did, was there any other conditions on it? I noticed it did say that it was not spent, he would like a return, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Was there any other
It
conditions?
just need to be used for the renovations.
Okay. So, all those, is there a motion to accept the donation?
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion, all those in favor? Okay. And then Terry gave us today, Terry, why don't you explain this, cause I get lost. Was it last Friday?
Last Thursday. These checks were deposited into the library donation account.
Now we're talking about the operational
Yeah.
account and not the, okay.
The donation, the library.
Operational,
Regular
yeah,
library,
yeah.
yeah. I still have not been told by Penny that this was done, but. Phil noticed there was a deposit in the account, so he was able to go into details and find that there was a check from Martha Carlson's estate for $1,000.
And that was dated February 1st,
Yes,
okay?
Casey and Tisha Hucknagel for $20 dated March 26th. Marcia Turner, check for $100 dated December 16th,
24,
24. And David and Carol Martz, a check for $50 dated December 31st. There was also cash of $390 deposited and cash of $1,010. The bank didn't have a check associated with those amounts, so we assumed they were cash. I'm not sure exactly where they came from. And in January, Penny gave Hannah a copy of 2 checks. One was from Spruce Head Fisherman's Co-op for $100 and one for Bob Levine for $100. Neither of those checks has been deposited or cashed in the library account. The co-op check has gone past 90 days, but the co-op said they would reissue it. And Bob Levine said his check has not been cashed. And they were dated January 14th and Bob Levine's was 12/3.
Did you say Martha Carlson's was deposited?
Yes,
Okay.
So all the ones up above were deposited, but just recently.
yes, on on May 8th.
There's two that people indicate, and Hannah has a copy of them given back in January.
In December.
Yeah, and they're not
We don't,
deposited.
they're not deposited,
And we're sure they're not here.
no, they're not here.
Okay, so I have two questions. One is, we haven't approved, as we're required to, any of these, correct?
That is correct.
And two, these are being deposited, in my opinion, way too late.
Yeah,
Some of them back in December. And some people take tax deductions on these things, and now you're in the wrong tax year and, I think the first thing we need to do is vote to accept all of these. Do we wanna do that in mass?
I would move to accept the $1,000 from Martha Carlson, $20 from Upnagel, $100 from Turner, $50 from the Marts, as well as cash from various sources of $390 and $1,010.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor? And so when you say they were deposited, it doesn't say who deposited them.
no, it doesn't. say-
You assume Penny.
I assume
deposited.
Penny did.
Yeah, but we don't know that.
No. But she could bring them to the office and Phil can do it right in the office.
Yeah, well, I think personally, we need to put the matter of the process and the lateness and have a discussion with Penny, perhaps an executive session at our next meeting. Because I think, holding checks that were issued last December is just, in my opinion, just not acceptable.
And then we don't know if they received thank you notes either.
Well, they would get a little form from us, but they didn't get it because
We
we
didn't
didn't
know.
know about it.
Right.
Right, but I just think, we might want to discuss this in executive session. And, I don't want to assume anything at this point. Right. I mean, things are often not what they look like.
Right.
Correct. So. Okay, so the motion, well, we don't need a motion, I can just put that, Terry, you remind me to put that on the next meeting agenda. And we need to invite Penny to join us. Okay, several warrants are being, executed here. We need to schedule future meetings. We have one for the 27th, correct?
Yes,
And we now have one for June 2nd. Third. The 10th is election day. And the 17th is town meeting.
will you have a regular meeting after the public hearing?
I think so. Yeah, that was my intent.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, we gotta sign the
Same
warrant. Well, actually, we need to sign the warrant before then, don't we?
I thought we'd do it on the 27th.
Okay, if we're ready. Yeah, okay.
It'll be
Okay,
ready.
yeah, all right. But, and we probably should set up a meeting between town meeting and the end of the year to do appointments and housework, housekeeping work based on town meeting.
24th. Following Tuesday.
One of the good old days, when you just look at your calendar.
That's what I do.
Those are getting harder to find.
Ocean job lots always has
Yeah,
calendars like
it's
that.
about the only place, yeah.
So that'd be June 4th, we said?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm good.
June will be a busy month.
I think it's a very good sign that Corey has sat here for the whole meeting. I'm actually,
Actually, if I wasn't at this meeting, I'd be at the Elks meeting, so.
yeah, well,
Yeah, but they serve alcohol up there.
I just hope you're not ready to say, oh, boy, I'm out of there. And we need to take up, we had hiring a town administrator and assistants to the town administrator, we dealt with half that issue. So I'm looking, I think that's it, right? Anybody see anything? I'm looking for a motion to enter executive session to discuss hiring of a new town administrator. Under whatever section it is, section
405(6)(a). Discuss personnel matter. Yeah.
Thank
And Corey,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Pleasure meeting
We'll
you.
have a letter for you tomorrow, because I know you wanted something in writing before you resign, which I understand.
Yeah,
Do you wanna come pick it up or do you want me to email
either one works for me. If you don't email it, I can pop in,
it? Okay.
doesn't matter. Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Oh, should have them close. What happened? Oh, are we done recording?
Nope.
Okay.